Welcome to FinanceFeeds Podcasts. FinanceFeeds is the world's premier interactive Forex industry news source, providing the latest insights and current affairs from within the online trading industry worldwide. Enjoy our latest podcast episode. Hey everyone, it's FinanceFeeds Podcast episode number 7. I'm Nikolai Isayev, editor-in-chief of FinanceFeeds. I'm joined today by Elena Krutova, who's Chief People Officer at Exness. Elena, welcome.
Thank you, Nikolai. Glad to be here.
Elena, I think you are joining us all the way from Malaysia. I'm currently in New York, and I think you are 12 hours ahead of me. If I'm correct, please tell us what brings you to Malaysia.
Yeah, I'm in Malaysia right now. It's early morning here. And it happens that this year I travel a lot to Malaysia, and I will come back late in November and then in December because part of my team is located here. And my HR people are taking care of the services that we provide to our clients. And for me, it's very important to see them, to be with them, to participate in different activities, team activities, company events. So definitely it's a good trip and also a good experience for me personally, being in another country, being in another culture, and to see how people live, what is important for them, what's going on in the country in general.
Absolutely. And have you traveled to Malaysia before for work at Exness or just personally?
Yeah, I was here the first time in 2019, and then I think this is my fifth trip. Unfortunately, during pandemic, the country was closed and nobody could enter. Therefore, we lost almost 2 years without any visits here, without being with the employees. But right now, myself and other managers are coming here quite frequently because this is an important destination and this is important priority for us to see like what's going on in the spot.
hmm Great, awesome. Well, look, the last time you and I saw each other was very briefly. I have to say, it was in Cyprus at the IFX Expo this June. I just remember running into you in one of the hallways of the conference. I wanted to ask, besides your business trips that you do specifically to, your offices around the world, do you go to conferences usually with your colleagues?
Yeah, we like conferences and we usually have something to share. Getting more experience, I see that there are pieces of wisdom that we can tell to others and they can start thinking about it. Or when you're talking to other people, you also see their points of view, you see what's going on in their minds. So it's really important to talk to others in your industry, to other professionals, and tell them your stories. At the end of the day, the leadership practices, they're developing through the stories we tell to the others, and of course, through the stories we listen from the others. So I think the conferences, it's usually a great experience if you have a goal, if you know why you are attending them, and if you have something to say.
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense. I wanted to start talking to you today about how Exness is known for taking care of its people. I think that your company has built a reputation in the industry where many industry participants know that you know you put a lot of effort into taking care of your employees. Me personally, I remember the Mini Cooper cars that you could actually still find on the streets of Limassol and maybe other cities in Cyprus today. And if I remember correctly, in speaking with one of your colleagues last year, I may be wrong. You can correct me, but I think Exness gave all employees around the world a week off, like a paid week off last year, or was it the year before? On top of any kind of normal allotted vacation days. Can you tell us more about sort of this philosophy or strategy of investing back into your employees and your people? Like where did these ideas come from?
I like that you use the word philosophy, not the strategy, because the philosophy is based on the beliefs that you have about any subject. And in our case, it's about people. We believe truly and with our hearts that people are important the most important element of the business. And our philosophy is that if you take care of people, if you are doing everything possible to make their life easier, to give them many benefits, and not only tangible benefits, but also care in terms of education, in terms of family support, they will pay you back with the better performance, with the better relations, and they will see how unique you are, and most likely they will stay for you with you for a longer time. And cars or holiday days or some other small elements, they are only small pieces of the bigger picture that we're trying to have for our people. It's also about development priorities, it's also about well-being priorities, it's also about mental health practices. So we really uh, truly believe that if you do a lot for people, they will pay you back. And I'm happy to be in the company which never questioned this approach. And when the values of being the most profitable or the values of being the most efficient, they exist, but the first set of values are related to people mainly and their well-being and their contribution to the business.
Hmm. Yeah, makes definitely makes a lot of sense to me. I also saw that you recently changed your work title. Well, like officially on LinkedIn or whatever. You changed your work title to Chief People Officer. Not something that I see. That not something that I see often. Is that in line with the philosophy that you had just mentioned?
Uh, my role was the same for the last few years. So I was making sure that our employees are taken care of, and this helps them to be more productive and successful. These two things, happiness and success, they go hand by hand. And therefore, my title change was just a recognition, probably, of my past efforts and of my successes. But in general, nothing changed in my job. And also, recently, I started to think that probably the term HR is a bit outdated, because if you call your employees resources, they will act as resources, and you will act as towards them as resources, counting them, reducing them, making them more efficient. But if you accept people like people, you will see a bit different and more colorful picture. Therefore, my department called People Office. I am Chief People Officer. And one of my beliefs is that people make the business successful, not HR is making business successful.
Hmm. And well, specifically with what you just said and your answers to the previous question, I think ultimately give me a better sort of idea. I'm always wondering, Exness, a lot of the time is in the news in a positive way in our industry. Achieving certain milestones, breaking records. Your trading volumes, for example, are always making headlines. Now I'm starting to see a more clear or sort of full picture of how you guys again, like you said, the philosophy that you have from your perspective, right, and from the department that you manage, and all the things associated with it, that Exness continues to grow in part um, because of this philosophy
Yeah, yeah.
that that,
So it
that
works. It
that,
works.
that you mentioned. Yeah, it's a great test case, or as they say. Here's another interesting fact. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think I saw also that you now actually have a whole team under you of over maybe 10 or 20 in-house. Again, I'm calling them human resources staff. You just said, we should call them, it's the people department, including recruiters. So basically, from what I understand, these are in-house employees who are basically fulfilling recruiter functions for your company, and who are constantly working on finding new talent. Is that correct? Hello, hello, hello.
Sorry, Nikolai, I keep on losing you from time to time due to the connection. I think this distance doesn't work well for us. So
It's
I
okay.
hope
It's
I
okay.
did.
It's
Yeah,
okay. If
I hope I got
you
the
if
question.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I got the question about like my team, the size of my team, and what they do. And we are not only 10 or 20. I have more than 100 employees in my people office in all the directions related to people, starting from recruitment, which we call talent acquisition, because we are hunting for talents usually. And then we have people taking care of learning and development, different transformational and change management activities. So in total is around 100 people globally. Of course, they are divided in teams and in the respective functions, and I have my management team. So definitely for this structure that we have and the effort that we apply towards our employees, we have quite a big team. And probably the part of the success is that we have lots of resources in order to support employees, and we have a clear understanding what we should do first and what we should do next. So for me, it's the biggest team that I ever had. And still, it's not always enough because we have more and more
Mhm.
interesting activities and priorities. For example, we are taking care of our families. Not many companies are doing so. So we are providing some entertainment or induction activities for spouses of our employees, or we do some activities for children, or we try to connect our spouses and family members with Exness culture as well, doing different events, including our events on the rooftop. So all that requires efforts, and therefore
Mhm.
my bigger team is taking care of many priorities that are usually not probably part of traditional HR.
And Yelena, I also saw that you now have a whole team of colleagues working under you in your department. I'm not sure of the headcount as they call it, but I did notice that I think I saw some of your staff are actually in-house recruiters who are constantly working on finding new talent. Is that correct?
We are quite a big team right now. My team is around 100 people or even more, and we cover all people-related issues and activities for our employees, starting from recruitment, which we call talent acquisition, because our goal is that we are hunting for talents and the most capable and experienced employees. And then we do learning and development, we do total rewards, other functions. Therefore, we have huge resources in order to support such a structure. So I'm really proud to have such a team, because more resources you have, more you can do for people. And of course, it's a huge workload and quite a stressful job, because you have to take care of a number of different activities of all of your team members, because it's also quite a big organization. But I'm really proud to have such a team, because it means that we can do even more for our employees, and I'm sure that they value the efforts that we apply and the outcomes that we have for them.
Hmm. And has Exness ever worked with, like, let's say, outside consultants or outside recruiters? I know that I guess the consensus is mixed. Because you are a human resources or people, professional. Is there a particular reason why you would hire people at Exness who would work as external recruiters?
We had such an experience, and we still engage with some recruitment agencies from time to time for complicated roles or in case of some urgency. The main reason for that, having this team in house, is that we believe that internal expertise is much more important. And when you are working together with your leaders, together with the other teams, you know everything about the company. You can explain more to the candidates. You are engaged into the business, and of course, it's cost efficient. So for us, the main strategy is to do recruitment and hiring in-house, and only when needed or only when we have lack in some expertise, we are engaging with external providers.
I see. And since you have offices around the world, including Asia, where you are, where you are now, I wanted to ask in terms of qualified candidates and different regions. Can you speak a little bit about your experience at Exness and maybe at other companies in terms of geographies and how different countries, different geographies may present challenges and some that may present ripe opportunities for hiring into the roles that you need to hire into. I ask because some of my previous guests we tend to ask questions about geography, locality, right, where people are located, and I get sort of differing feedback. Certain cities in certain countries will have qualified candidates for the positions that are for the open positions that are available at brokerages. Some have challenges, and things like that. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about your experience in this particular area.
Exness is quite unique in this case because we do global hiring. So for us, the location or geography is not a limitation, but it's an additional opportunity to consider if there are some talents or some good people in this area. And wherever we find a good person, we are ready to relocate the person to the offices where we have presence, or for some roles, we are ready to negotiate the remote work. So for me, personally, it's the first time when I have such an experience, when we are not limited by the locations, where we are focused on global talents, and therefore the whole world is open for us. So if we have any good candidate from America and the person is ready to relocate to Cyprus or to any of other offices, that's fine. If we have a person from South Africa, that's quite an interesting region, and the person that wants to go somewhere else, that's fine again. So for us, we are not limited by the boundaries of the countries and the boundaries of the market where we are present, but we are focusing on the best possible candidates all over the world. And this, of course, opens a number of opportunities for us. And therefore, almost, I think, 90 or 80% of our employees are relocated. So being in Cyprus, they are originally most likely not from Cyprus. Being in other offices, they most likely are relocated to these countries as well. So that's why the cross-cultural element, the collaboration between different cultures, between different nationalities, this is one of the most important priorities, because we have to ensure that all these people who we are collected from different places can successfully work together, they understand one another, and we don't have any cross-cultural issues that many companies have.
Interesting. Very cool. It's interesting that you say this because an executive at a international FX brokerage that I was talking to once, he told me, that in order for their company to be truly sort of global, or to really have a very unique offering in different regions where brokerages such as yours operate, you need to invest a lot into the people, like you guys already do. But he told me, you also need to spend just as much time investing time in studying local culture and people's expectations to make sure that you're truly providing, the best experience for your clients, right? The traders, and ultimately also for, it goes back to your employees as well. I guess, in your experience, because you have a lot of experience in terms of the people at Exness, how do you formulate sort of this type of philosophy, given your presence in different regions, meaning a philosophy of, having the customers be satisfied by the services that Exness provides?
That's true. If you do global business and if you are present in many locations, you have to respect the cultures of these locations and these countries. You have to understand how people act in any specific situations. You have to ensure that people who are coming, they may be successfully embedded into the culture. And therefore, we do, of course, a lot investing in these topics, trying to provide the education and different collaboration activities, including entertainment, together with our local employees and the relocated employees. But it's not easy. I can admit that's not easy, because cultures have very, very deep roots, and the cultures usually explain how people act subconsciously, and what happens when people are under stress, or when they have something unusual in their life. And you have to understand it, and you have to accept that we're all different. So therefore, this focus is about diversity, inclusion. They should not be just focuses on paper. They should be embedded into people work, because only understanding one another, we can ensure that we can work together successfully, that we respect each other boundaries, that we respect each other cultures, and then the result will follow. So I think that Exness is quite successful there. Just due to the history that we are always doing relocations, we are always looking for international talents, and also right now we invest a lot in local communities. We do a lot to prove that we are a sustainable employer, we are a sustainable company that is taking care about many things in the world, including CSR, including different environmental activities, including some people things. So I think we are quite okay managing this.
No, that sounds really great. I also saw that you have worked quite many years in an HR capacity in different companies. I think some of them were in Russia, some of them maybe were elsewhere, like Kaspersky Lab, IBM, Bureau Veritas. I wanted to ask you, is there a noticeable difference in the approach to, let's say, human capital, human resources, people culture, at companies where you've worked over the years? The reason why I ask is, in my own personal experience in working in our industry and things like that, I remember visiting Russian marketing and forex broker companies in Russia many years ago, like 10, 15 years ago. And the experience for employees and people was starkly different. At least that's how I remember it. While the business is sort of performed as intended, it seems like people were happier at companies where their managers or just the culture as a whole paid more attention to their needs and well-being, meaning to the employees, than, let's say, other companies. Was that sort of your experience as well?
Recently, I started to think exactly about this topic because we do many hirings for my team, and we are trying to find the HR professionals with some unique expertise, and I realized that that's not easy. So I tried to explain to myself why so, and I see the huge movement in terms of change in HR perception and people perception. And if like 20 years ago, the HR practices were more traditional, let's say, how to hire people, how to fire people, how to pay their salaries, and that's it. Right now, we see quite a number of sophisticated priorities that never existed before. For example, well-being. And if 10 years ago somebody started to think about well-being, usually the feedback was like, we have more important things to do. But right now, we see that the companies treat well-being initiatives, mental health initiatives quite seriously, especially after pandemic. And this is a shift in the perception how HR should work. And for example, for Exness, when I'm looking for someone for my team, I'm trying to find these contemporary professionals, like with modern views, with clear beliefs about people, with clear intention to make people's life in the companies better. Because I don't believe anymore that doing traditional stuff, you can get some innovation, so you can get some extreme happiness from your employees. But doing something really great, doing something strong and bold, and showing that you really want to make people's life better, you can see different results. And it's good that 10 years ago, some companies started to think about employee happiness. Right now, I think it's not the nice thing to have. It's a reality, and you have to respect this reality. And you have to think of these priorities as well.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically, it's a must-have for any company these days.
Yes, if you don't want to be an outdated, if you don't want to be considered as like HR operations, then you have to take care of these priorities into account, and you have to help your business to accept these priorities, because still many traditional organizations with traditional management values, but one day they will also understand that there is no borderline between life and work. It's all integrated. It's all about you and how you feel at work, how you feel at home, and you cannot just close the door of the office saying, this is not my business, or this is not my priority anymore. You keep on thinking of this. You keep on being stressed at home if you were stressed at work. You keep on trying to solve your working tasks at home, even when you are with families. So the companies, they should understand that, and they should treat this new reality with quite respect, because it's only one me or you. There is no Elena at work and different Elena at home. We are all like unique and integrated from all of dimensions of our lives.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes That definitely makes a lot of sense. And I actually wanted to take a step back to what we had just discussed, right? Different regions, different geographies. And, you just mentioned, you bring a more modern approach to the HR function, right? And to people and to employees. I would venture to guess that, some of the countries that your brokerage operates in probably some of the local laws with respect to human rights and employee rights, and things like that, may in one way or another be lacking from other countries where Exness operates. Hypothetically speaking, we can compare maybe just as a hypothetical, like Cyprus to Malaysia. I feel like when Exness opens a new office, I feel like the people that are being brought on board as employees, as people, have almost probably a better experience working at your company than they do elsewhere. I'm not speaking just about forex brokerages, but just in general. So, if that's correct, is sort of you bring an international sort of know-how in terms of caring for employees, understanding their needs both at work and at home and in their daily lives. And in a sense, you are kind of giving them a better experience locally by bringing this international expertise with you. Um, and that kind of differentiates your company as an employer from the rest. Does that make sense?
Exactly, this makes sense because the law, the employment law, is the basis that you have to respect when you are coming to any geography where you want to have an office. But on top of the law, you have to embed other things, many of them. And some companies are more professional, putting a lot on top of the law and on top of the requirements of the law, including some additional benefits, some initiatives, some flexibility to workplace. Some companies are doing less, and in the long run, of course, they will lose. In the short run, they will see no difference probably, but employees will make a choice. And I love international practices because it's integrated wisdom from many organizations, from many HR practitioners who tried different things, who analyze the outcomes, who share their views, and then other companies are ready to apply these new practices in their life. So for me, employment law is a must, but it's not the one and the main element of any employee-employer relations. You should put a lot on top of that to ensure that you are, first of all, staying at the cutting edge, and then second, that you are really doing something that is about passion, what is about the right energy among the employees, what is about the engagement, and employment law never covers that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely makes sense. I wanted to talk a little bit about your education. Again, on LinkedIn, I saw that you attended State University of Management in Moscow and then later Kingston University in the UK. I almost kind of have an impression that human resources or people culture has been a passion of yours for a very long time. And I'm wondering if it's something that developed, quite early in your life, maybe even in your early life, in your school years or something, or again, maybe during your university studies or something like that. If you can tell us a little bit more.
I usually tell a story that when I was choosing my first education, I was trying to choose between finance management and HR. And right now I'm in financial services company being an HR. So for me, it's hard to say if I demonstrated some interest in real HR work when I was in university, before university, or when I was in school. Definitely, I was surrounded by people all the time, and I was trying to understand how people act and what is the most important motives for them, what most important part of the lives for them. And therefore, somehow I chose an HR. I could not say that this was intentionally, because when you are 17 years old, you have no idea how the world is really working. But then I realized that this is something that I can use for my career, something that I can like. And I really loved people one day. I really understood that everything is standing on people, not on technologies, because technologies are also produced and invented by people. But the human beings, they are at the core of any changes, of any good things that are coming in the world. And then I started to explore it more and more. I started with from local education with State University of Management, and I had my CIPD degree with Kingston, so I opened my eyes towards the global expertise in HR, and we had quite a good program to compare the local practices with global one. And right now I'm finishing my INSEAD education, and I will have a degree of Executive Master in Change. I'm trying to understand how to change the world using people. And any change starts from yourself. If you can change yourself, you can change the group, you can change the organization, and you can change the world. And I think this education is very, very beneficial for my self-development and growth, because many things became obvious after this program, and many things about human behavior and about human psychology are more clear for me. So I'm not sure that I will stop learning, because probably in 10 years I will find out something else that what instills some interest in me. But definitely I recommend it to everyone. If you want to be on the cutting edge of everything, you just to keep on learning. And this will make your life easier, your performance better, and you probably a bit happier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for giving us those insights. That was actually going to be one of my questions about this Master in Change, Executive Master in Change. It looks very cool in terms of just the name of the degree itself. So, taking a look into the future, what do you think is in store for people culture in general? In general, meaning like in the global economy, and specifically also separately, maybe for FX brokerages and other companies in our space. Now, what I mean by that is, some of the things that we've been hearing in the media recently. One of those things is quite a lot of folks who have had the opportunity to work from home or work remotely 100% of the time because of the pandemic. Some of them are reluctant to come back to the office, especially I think those that are being, I don't want to say forced, but their employers are quite stern in saying, well, we have to get back to business as usual, and that was really full-time office work. So we would, greatly appreciate if you would start returning back to the office full time. And unfortunately, remote work might not be an option anymore for a large number of employees. Another thing that we've been seeing, and maybe this is more so in the United States. It's been called the Great Resignation. You being a people professional, I would think you've heard of this sort of phenomenon that we've been having in the United States, where it seems like employees were, they're very frustrated and they're overworked. The pandemic took a very big psychological toll, and in some ways, employers continue to still be very demanding of their staff during the pandemic, because business still has to go on, and perhaps maybe did not take into account their employees' needs, like, for example, you described Exness does. And so the Great Resignation is this thing where a lot of people are quitting their jobs in the United States in order to basically find better opportunities, not necessarily always because of more pay, but a complex set of things that they may or may not receive, as opposed to their current job. So I was just wondering if you can comment on some of these phenomena that are happening sort of in the global economy, and are you seeing them also happening in some way, shape, or form within our industry, within FX?
Let's start from probably remote work or work from office, because this idea of coming back to office or not coming back to office was discussed a lot in medias, among the employees, and even in our company. And usually the things are more complex than they look from the beginning. And if everyone was so enthusiastic when at the start of the pandemic, when we were thinking, okay, we became more efficient, we became closer to our families, we probably became happier, but this did not happen. Because at the end of the day, instead of working 8 hours, we started to work 12 hours. Instead of having healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we started to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner nearby our laptop. Instead of talking to our family members, we started to close the door because they are very noisy and they cannot help you working. And I see that this enthusiasm that we have about remote work, it a bit disappeared because we saw the complexity of the topic. And let's also consider from a professional perspective. If you are a client-serving employee and you do calls or you do customer support job, the internet connection matters. And if in your house the internet connection is not perfect, you cannot do your job, even if you believe that you are more successful in your home than at work. Or if you are a receptionist, or if you're serving the clients in bank, it's almost impossible to do this job remote. So these elements, they also should be taken into account when they are talking about come back to office or staying at home. Of course, some professions, they can easily work from home, like some technical professions, software engineers, designers, and probably a few others. But for majority of us, still, the human touch, the human connection mean a lot. And if we can solve some small tasks and some small issues just talking to a colleague, then working remote, you have to schedule a half an hour meeting, then you have to check the calendars, you have to ensure that your colleague is in a good mood to help you. It makes the work not efficient. Therefore, I believe that the most efficient way is that it's when you consider both elements, positive and negative. And flexibility is the core. So if you can stay a couple of days per week at home doing some stuff which is not demanding other people, then fine. But the rest of the time, you may come to the office to talk to people, to see them, especially if you're HR probably, or if you're a manager. And talking about human touch, like this concept that became quite popular, we were missing this. You cannot be happy if you don't talk to other people. Of course, if you are deeply introverted, it's fine. But in the long run, again, I want to see people's faces. I want to ask them how they are doing. I want to have some cup of coffee with them. I want to talk to them about their children, about their, weekends, about something else. And being stuck at home, you just don't have all of that. And for me, it's personally important. In Exness, we're still trying to find the balance, because we see the pros and cons of these two options, and we are trying to balance the flexibility with the business efficiency. Because, as I said, for some roles, it's okay to work remotely. For some roles, it's not okay to work remotely. And we have to make the policies and approach fair, transparent, and, of course, human-oriented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. You had just mentioned, it's about flexibility, and you want to see people's faces. You want to have a human experience, right, with another human being,
Yes.
physically together. But during the pandemic, did you ever have any kind of Zoom happy hours or anything like that with your colleagues? I know, I know during the pandemic, I was introduced to this idea of getting on a Zoom call with friends, and everybody can grab, I don't know, a beer or a glass of wine and just catch up with each other, to at least find some sort of solace in the situation, and continue the human interaction. Was that your experience personally as well?
Yeah, we try to do this, and we try to have virtual team buildings. We try to have virtual parties. We try to have some human touch through laptops. And for me, I felt very sad after this, because it's a substitution. It's like when you want to have something tasty, but your mother tells you, okay, this is cereal, this is healthy, but you don't need this. You want the Coca-Cola. So we all wanted Coca-Cola during pandemic, but instead of this, we got a plate with cereals, and we have to manage this. So I'm really happy that I can come back to work and to have real parties, to have real entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
That time we didn't have this because many countries were closed. In many countries you cannot even exit your flat or go somewhere out. Therefore, we had to utilize this. But this was not the best experience I ever had, of course.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, in our industry, specifically in our industry, uh, for some reason, I feel like the summer months, and really towards the end of the summer, is kind of like this time when it seems like there's a lot of competition between companies in our industry for the best talent. I say this because, even just looking at things like LinkedIn, you see, this is the time of year when a lot of people will change roles, right? You see executives and you see other professionals in their respective fields, right, within our industry, jump into new opportunities. I often see people, was at brokerage X is now at brokerage Y, or someone was a fintech provider and is now basically entertaining or is in a new position elsewhere. Is this from your experience, is this like a common trend within our industry, or am I just crazy?
No, I think in our industry, every season is a hot season because the pace is quite huge. So everything is changing quite fast. And it's not about like this traditional, well-established approach when you have a headcount planning in December, January, then you open your positions, then you hire them by summer, and then you may see many changes, people changing their jobs. I see from our perspective that's very hot all the time, and it may be different dynamic on the market. It may be different crises, and recently we started to have many crises: political crises, economic crises, health crises, whatever crises. So all this require specific expertise from people who can manage this, who can adopt the changes, and the companies are hiring like insane. So that's why probably we see more and more transfers from one company to another, just because it's really happening. People became more flexible, and people are always looking for a good. So they are finding this good.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you if you in particular speak to potential candidates directly, maybe like at a later stages of the onboarding process of employees that you are hiring into Exness. Perhaps you have some feedback from your colleagues on your team. What are some of the things that people who are applying as candidates, let's say, or perhaps you are trying to recruit into Exness, folks that are at established companies? What are some of the feedback that you're getting from them? Like, what are they looking for these days? Besides, obviously, compensation is obviously a big thing, but what are the other things? And is it Exness being very attractive to top tier employees in terms of talent because you offer, there's a people culture. It's not just a salary, and you get, I don't know, 20 days off a year for vacation and sick days and maternity leave and paternity leave. It's much more than that. Like, what's the feedback that you're getting from candidates, especially candidates that you're trying to recruit, into Exness, not those that are desperately seeking employment?
Well, I do many interviews. I do many interviews for my team. I do the interviews for other senior roles, and I talk to people a lot. And the main thing that the candidates are looking for is a change. So they are looking for a change in their lives, and they are usually looking for something bigger. And this bigger may mean bigger in terms of role, bigger in terms of their purpose, bigger in terms of their impact. Many people want to make a difference. Many people want to try something new. And we are hunting for those who can make a difference to the world, because
Mm-hmm.
it can be easy to say that just go and do your job and everything will be fine. Making change is a huge, huge work when you have to manage yourself, when you have to manage the resistance, when you have to understand and evaluate the complex environment. And only really capable people can do that. So we are hunting for those who can make a change, who can do something new, who can
Mm-hmm.
not give up, who can find the inner power and inner strength to overcome the obstacles. And we find these people from time to time. And it's really good that still the industry is full of capable professionals, the only task is to carefully select them and to find what is good for Exness, and what is not good for Exness probably will be good for some other company, because we all have different requirements and we all have different circumstances.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, the last question I wanted to ask you today, you obviously take great care of your employees. We now know that. But how does Elena take care of herself? Like, for example, like what are your hobbies and interests, and how do you normally, decompress, unwind, and relax in your time off, in Cyprus or when you go on holiday? Obviously, Cyprus is a warm climate. You have a sea, so beach and stuff like that doesn't count.
Well, it's a very good question, because usually I don't care much of myself. My husband takes care of me, so he feeds me when needed. He takes care of my mental health. My assistant, she's brilliant. She's trying to clean up my schedule. She's trying to give some advices how to manage my time better. For myself, I have a couple of hobbies. So I like crocheting. So I do nice decoration stuff for my home, or I even can create a dress crocheting. And I'm just full of energy. So I hope this will last a bit longer, and I hope I will not lose my energy, so I will be capable to do even more than I'm doing right now.
Well, it sounds like this hobby can at some point later on down the road turn into I'm not going to say side business, but like a hobby that, you could share with other people.
I will be a funny granny, because I crochet a lot, so I will be crocheting all day long, I think.
Well, I think, in different cultures, that's certainly a very traditional thing to do. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't make fun of it.
Yeah, it's a nice thing. I like it. Yeah.
Well, Elena, thanks for taking the time to join us and speak with us today. I know you're on a business trip. You're quite far away from me and from Cyprus, actually, for that matter. At this point in time, thanks for speaking with us, and we wish you all the best on your trip. I hope that you get back safe to Cyprus, and we hope to speak with you soon again on people culture within our industry.
Thank you, Nikolai. My pleasure talking to you. My pleasure talking to the audience. I hope that it was useful and interesting for you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to our latest Finance Feeds podcast episode. For sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest, please email us at info@financefeeds.com.